Hey, good afternoon. My name is Scott McCutcheon of Sovereign Studios. Welcome to episode 18, I think, maybe 19, of the Yamaha Virago Cafe Racer project. I greatly apologize that these videos have kind of slowed down, and it's taken me a long time to get the next one out. My new job is fairly demanding. I'm busting it out there, and it hasn't given me a lot of time to really work out in the garage, but I was working on a different version of this video where I was going to be building the battery box, and you may notice I now have this big scar across my face, and it's because while I was building the battery box, I was building this thing down here to fit that big blue Caltric battery back there, which is the stock OEM size. While I was building that, I was using this tool with one of these grinding discs here to sand it out so that I could get it ready to paint. And man, it caught on an edge of there and bounced back up and hit me in the face. So this thing bashed me in the face, which was pretty rough. It hurt. I had to go to the ER and get 12 stitches in my face, so I'll pop a couple photos of that in here, but it was a mess. So needless to say, I was wearing my safety glasses, but they popped right off my face when that happened. I really should have been wearing the full face mask, and I was not. Just one of those things where I wasn't taking it seriously enough and made a mistake, or had an accident, I guess. And now I have a scar to prove it. So to all you watching out at home, be careful with your stuff, take precautions, use your safety gear. It's important. Either way, that being said, once I really got the battery box finished, and I was basically almost done, I was ready to get it painted and get it mounted onto the bike. And when I built this thing, we talked about it earlier. It was going to kind of mount here, right? Built this little tab so we can mount this guy on there. And it was basically that's where the stock battery was. And this is a replacement for the stock battery. And it's huge, it's heavy, it's just cumbersome to deal with, and I was building the box to accommodate that. But now that I got the box finished, and this divot right here on this edge is where I caught the grinder, right there. And either way, now that box is real heavy too, and it's just a lot of weight to put on the side of the motorcycle. It's big, it's heavy, it's ugly, and I just wasn't really happy with the whole thing. And then I hit myself in the face, and now it's just man, the battery has been the worst part of this bike to put together, and it's only because I just don't really know what to do with it, So, that being said, I actually went and tried to start my 600 the other day, and it was dead. I ride the bike pretty often, but the battery had died, so I went looking for new batteries for this guy. Came across those lithium-ion anti-gravity batteries, which you've probably seen floating around. They're real nice, they're real expensive, but I figured I'd take the leap and pick them up. So I bought one for my CBR that was the replacement size, and while I was looking around, I found they have what they call their small case batteries. So we'll do a video on that probably the next time, because I've ordered it and it should be here in sometime this next week or so. But either way, it's a tiny battery that I think I can do one of two things with. I can either make some custom battery box to get it up under the seat. Alternatively, I see a lot of people that mount it down here where the center stand used to be. So I think I'm going to try and see if I can't figure out how they do that, and we'll build a box for that, so that maybe I can get it down there. Either way, I think both of those will be better options. The anti-gravity battery that I bought is their 12 cell battery. I think it's like 5 by 5 by 5 kind of cubed, you know, maybe something like that, and it's an estimate, I don't know, but it's only like 2 or 3 pounds, you know, so we'll save a little weight, we'll do a little bit better in terms of space, you know, and I think we might be able to hide it underneath the wheel, or just in front of the wheel, the rear wheel, and hopefully that'll work out real well for us. But we'll do that in the next video. For this video, right, I wanted to just kind of get back into the groove of working on the bike. So I thought we'd, I've been putting this off for a while, so I thought we'd go ahead and do it, because it's going to need to be done. So if you recall watching the video I did for the throttle cable, there were a couple tasks that we still needed to do that I'd left undone. So we're gonna do those today. There are 2 tasks. The first is finding a way to mount this so that it's stable. And if you recall, we buttoned up this into the cable, got it mounted inside the carburetor, and that works pretty well. Let me pull this off real quick. So that works pretty well, but what we want to do is we want to make sure that it's stable, because right now you see it's flexible, it kind of flops around, and that's not really going to be good for throttle response, so we want to make sure that it's as stable as possible. And to do that, I have this little clamp here that's got a nice little rubber coating, or whatever that is, around it, rubber covering, and what we're going to do is we're going to basically clamp this around here, and then I'm going to build a custom steel tab that's going to come out here, and we'll just screw it down, and I'm going to weld it directly to the tank, so the tank will just have a tab coming out that we can just put a bolt in here, and that'll keep it nice and stable against the tank so that we have a better throttle response. So that's task 1. The second task is slightly more complicated, and I'm not really sure how we're going to solve this one just yet. But we're gonna try one solution, and if that doesn't work, we're gonna try a different solution. But for now, I'm only going to tell you about the one solution we're going to try today. So this one's complicated, and what this is here, give me a second. Let me get this thing on a head. Okay, with the camera head mounted, I hope this is going to be a little easier to see. So, okay, so the trick is we have the throttle cable, right, which comes up through here into this anchor piece, you know, right around the throttle handle, and then of course it feeds into it clips into the handle itself there. And this piece just kind of sits there like that. And then you have a similar piece with a second throttle cable. Now this second throttle cable on the Yamaha R6, right, which is where these this front clip came from. So this is, you know, like a 2008, I think, 2007 Yamaha R6 that this front clip came from. So this is the pieces for that bike, not the Virago. And on that bike, it uses 2 throttle cables. It uses an opening cable and a closing cable. This would be like the return cable that actually snaps that throttle back in place. And what it does is it works basically the same way, right? In that, you know, it slides in here, basically hangs out on the other side there, and then together these get mounted and pressed in, like so. So that's the Yamaha R6 setup, and we went over this back in the day, so, or not back in the day, but in like episode 6, I guess, whenever we did the throttle cable. So the throttle works pretty well in terms of opening and closing. You can hear it snap back, right? That's me opening and closing the throttle, and that works real well. The problem it has is that on the original R6, this had like a stop of some sort, and it was able to basically like prevent itself from moving because this second cable was attached somewhere in the inside the R6, you know. So it was able to prevent itself from pushing forward, whereas this one, now you can just push it all you want, and now you're a whole good few inches of turning before you actually engage the throttle on the carburetor. So there's this loose play now in the throttle if you push too far up, which sucks. So one of the design processes for this, if you look inside this one on this end, and it might be kind of hard to see, but you see those two little pegs that are machined sticking up inside the guide there, right? And those little pins are designed to basically act as a stopper, so they'll hit the edges of this white guide here. It'll hit those edges and prevent the handle from turning. So that's like the optimal design on how to do this, I suppose, and what we would really like if we could get there. Unfortunately, without like re-engineering this guide piece and maybe 3D printing it, you know, I don't know of a way to fix that. So what we're gonna do instead, we have this this end of the cable that did go into the R6. What we're gonna do is basically add a stopper onto the end of it and cut it short so that the stopper basically stops it from going any further up this tube. I don't know if you can see that very well, but this back tube here, we need it to prevent it from going inside there, because when you push up, it retracts inside, and we need to be able to stop that. So we need to stop it basically at the closed portion where, you know, the throttle inside the carburetor is fully closed, right? Which naturally, you know, is right about there. So I've already gone ahead and marked it with a marker. Which you'll see there, this black line right about where my finger is. So that's going to be basically where it needs to hit this plastic piece. You know, it needs to boom right there and prevent itself from going any further. So, hopefully that makes sense to you guys watching at home. So to do that, I think we're going to do it the easy way, quote unquote. And what I'm going to do, real simply, I'm just going to take a nut like this. Thread the cable into it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it up here, and then I'm going to tie a bunch of knots into it so that it's stuck there. And then once I do that, I'm probably going to weld it into place. Just to be sure, you know, that it's not going to be able to go any further in. and that it doesn't budge or move or give or anything like that. I may want to use a smaller nut, so let me see if I can find a better one. That screw didn't work, but it looks like this did. So I just took a small plate of steel, welded it to the end of it, and it's basically held on with tack weld. But it should work okay in terms of stopping that. So I'm just going to cut that out so that it's small and round, and we'll go from there. All right? Okay. Now it's a real small nub, but large enough to fit over the side of that and stop it from going much further. As one last final step here, to kind of get this thing in good shape, I kind of want to cover it with something. Let me look around real quick to see if I have anything good. Okay, so we shortened this up a little bit and re-welded it back down to this piece, or to that little flat piece that we made. I'm going to cover this back up with tape, and that should be it. Okay, so there's the piece fully taped up. Basically the same thing that the R6 was at the top, but we just chopped it off and added a stopper to the end of it. And then it slides in like that, of course. Let's go ahead and install it, see how this works. We'll slide that in there. That is good. I like that. I think that's a good fix. And finally, we're not able to push it forward. But now, you see we really only have that much play. And now we have a good feel. Prevent ourselves from going up too far. And we're good. So the last little bit here is that we have this little rubber boot. I'm not really sure if we're going to be able to use it anymore because of how fat that thing is, but we'll try it. We'll slide it on right here. You might end up having to actually cut that out. Maybe. We'll see. Cram this boot over it. Might make it so that it doesn't slide around much at all. Yeah, try and get that boot on as best you can. It'll make it a little harder for that piece we just added here to even get out further. That'll be good. And then I also had this clamp pin, but I don't think it's necessary anymore. So I'm probably just going to leave it off for now, but maybe we'll use it in the future. So I don't know, whatever. I'll keep it on there right now. But yeah, okay. I think that's a good fix for the throttle. Nice. Okay, great. So I feel pretty good about that in terms of being able to get a good feel out of the throttle. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Pretty happy with it. As long as that weld holds, I don't see why it would break, but I guess it could. But that's how we're gonna do it. So cool. Okay, so now for the next step. The next step is this. We're gonna find a way to stabilize this, and we're gonna do so by building a little tab that we'll weld onto the tank, and then we'll drill a hole into it and just tighten that down, and that'll be the whole throttle cable. After which the cables will be good, I think. So let's get started with that. Okay, so with us looking at this, like we said, I think this is a 5/16 clamp. I'll check that in a second. And what we're going to do is we're basically just going to build a square tab that I'm going to weld onto the face of the tank, and it's just going to come down a little bit, enough for us to bolt that in right there. Then we'll have a small bolt fixed here, and then that leaves space, you know, for the fuel stuff that's going to go right here. And obviously we can't drill into the tank. I was thinking about like building some type of bracket or something that would go mount somewhere around here, but there's nowhere good to do it. The best idea I could come up with is to build sort of like a U bracket that would bolt to these two bolts on the back of the manifold, and bring a bracket out and up. And that might work, but it'd be flimsier than it would if I just tied it here and welded it directly to the tank. So since I have a welder, and I think this might just work pretty easily, I think we're going to go that route. It's a metal tank, so it should be okay to knock that out. I was going to have to repaint the tank anyway, because I got a little water damage on it while it was drying from the first time, and then I scraped it during the move. Yeah, I was going to have to do that anyway, so no big deal. And alright, so that should be acceptable. So let's see what we're working with here. We have this this whole clamp, right? And then this thing here. So the clamp's going to go on just like that, and be able to press up against the tank with the rubber guard there, right? And then we're going to want it pretty much just like that, you know? So let's do a little marking. Right? And I suppose the idea is that the tab is going to come out straight. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and pop the gas cap off of here. Mostly because I don't want to damage it while we're welding on the tank. It's already not exactly the best cap, even though I bought it brand new on Amazon as a replacement for the OEM Virago. And while it definitely works as a replacement, it's just I I don't know, not a very good cap. Not a very good cap. I think I might like one that doesn't lock. Like how the one on my CBR does. It does not lock. Nobody's siphoning gas out of my tank or anything stupid. And it's just a pain with the lock to get it on and off. You know, it's not a very good locking mechanism. But it was cheap, and the other one I had to cut off because I didn't have the keys. So, you know, there's that. Okay, so now we have the tank. So we're basically looking at about 1 inch wide, and let's just estimate 2 inches long. Should do it. So 1 inch by 2 inches, and we'll weld it on there, drill a hole in it, and then be pretty good with the throttle cable. So let's decide what we want to make this out of. That would be pretty good, actually. A little bit of scrap, which is almost perfect. Not exactly, but close. And there we go. A little old 2 inch by 1 inch tab. Right? So it pretty much just mounts like that. And we'll drill a hole into it there so that we can mount the cable. Okay, so I went and took off a little bit of the paint right around there. And we're going to go ahead and remark where this was supposed to be welded to. Right, and so we want it to kind of come out straight like that. Just enough to where we can get a nut behind there and you know, put the bolt just underneath the tank. Yeah, so it's kind of worked out anyway, because if you recall a few videos back before I moved, we had to cut these slots into the tank, and those need to be painted anyway, so cool, you know. But yeah, so that's about where we want the tab to go. Here's our tab. It's a little thicker than that, but should work out just like that. Good enough, right? Yeah, I think I'm going to tack it in just like that. And we'll go from there. Right? With a few coats of paint, I think it'll be good. Now, it's probably worth marking where the hole should be. So let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, so we'll be able to cut off a fair bit of the excess here. But basically we want the hole more or less right there, and then we should be able to cut off all this. Right? Okay, let's go ahead and drill the hole. Right, there's our hole. where this is like a number 10 10 millimeter bolt, I think. It'll slide right in there, right through there. And then I got a washer for the back end, and a lock nut for the back end as well. Yeah, and then once that's all clamped down, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to ruin that nylon thread just yet until after I've painted it. But that'll end up working out real well. So we'll get another coat of paint on the tank here soon, and go from there. So I think that's a good solution too. Yeah, great. I think that's a good fix. That means your throttle cable's in good position, clutch cables are in good position. Everything's starting to come together real well. Okay, awesome. Thanks for sticking with me for this one. I'm glad we were able to get this work done today. That's a piece of the puzzle that I've been pushing off for a while, in part because I wasn't really sure how I wanted to fix them, and I think I finally came up with some good ideas on how to fix these, and it seems like they worked, so cool. I'm pretty happy about that. In the next video, I'm hoping that we can get the battery box done. I've got a lot of effort into that one already, and I'd like to make sure it gets done so that we can go ahead and start getting this thing wired up. I'm hoping over the next few videos, we'll see the battery get installed, we'll get the wiring harness remade, we'll get all the fuses and relays redone, and get it to where we can turn the key and see the lights come on. And I think that'll be a pretty good segue into almost ready to start. So cool. All right. Without too much further ado, thanks for watching. If you like this video, hit subscribe, do the thing. You know, share it, tweet it, do whatever it is you guys do with that cool stuff. Maybe check out my game Ethereal Legends on Steam. You might enjoy that one. As for that, I guess I will catch up with you next time. See ya.